So he grabs my guitar from me and goes running backstage.
Oh gosh.
Okay. And so I'm sitting there and the clock's ticking and it's 60 seconds and it's 30 seconds. And I'm sitting there on a stool. Like if I still had my guitar, if I had a guitar on my lap, I could mute it and pretend to play.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm just random dude sitting on a stool.
Yeah.
Ride around my top down, window shaking a lot now. I'ma stay proud, no Kane Brown, but I thank God for these days now. Don't make sounds, crash glass, no rebounds. End town, Nashtyville, and I stay proud now. Hey y'all, welcome to Nashtyville. As always, I got my main man DeMonte with me.
What's up? What's up?
We got Will the Thrill-O-Matic. We got a very special guest in the house, Gina, today. Karen, all the way from Colorado. And most importantly, today we got a very, very, very special guest, the one and only Slim Gambill. How's your day going, Slim?
So far, so good, man. It's cold, but other than that, I'm good.
It is cool. All right, Slim. So listen, I always just like to dive right into it, man. Obviously, you're known for one big thing, and it's all over your walls. Massive guitar playing.
Known for one big thing.
Or maybe now the world knows you're known for two big things, possibly.
Or 3 or 5.
So, yep, I own a lot of guitars. Everybody knows it now.
Yeah. So, Slim, what had you get into guitar playing, man? How long have you been playing for?
Every time I say this, it's just painful. I've been playing guitar for 37 years.
37 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So since you were 2?
Since you were 2.
So,
Okay, that's good, Slim. You look good.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Since I was 9. So,
okay.
So yeah, you do the math on that. But yeah, so I've been playing for a long time. I don't remember not playing.
What brought you into playing guitar? Like, what was that motivation factor? Was it just something that, like, was it the parents said, like, hey, Slim, like, pick up a guitar, let's start playing her? Or what was it for you?
Slim didn't exist at that point, so they didn't say Slim, but they did have my grandma had an old guitar, and it was just kind of around, and there was a guitar class at school, and so I went and took it. It was just something to do, short answer. And then it was kind of like, when I got to junior high school is when hair metal had taken over the world, and so I kind of got bit by the bug at that point, because it was like, it was the 80s, and there were guitar solos all over the radio, and I grew up with my parents' record collection too, so half of which is behind me now, and so I just grew up hearing guitar players and classic rock, and then the 80s stuff hit me, and I had a guitar, and then there was another guitar class in junior high, and so it was the way that class was structured was such that we would go through, it was a book, like there was a proper curriculum, where we were like reading music and doing actual musical stuff. But then once you get past the book, you could pick out whatever you wanted to learn, and then the instructor would just, grade you on that. And so I kind of just blew through the book because I was just super into it. And then and then I can honestly say the first song that I ever learned was in fact "Stairway to Heaven."
Okay.
So I learned it for a guitar class when I was in 7th grade.
Okay. Wow.
And then to kind of, so that's what really sparked the interest was a few years in, is I just, the stuff that was on the radio. So it's, we're kind of in an age now where things like guitar solos don't necessarily exist most of the time. But at the time, anyone who remembers, it's like, you couldn't have a song on the radio that didn't have a guitar solo, and listening back, some of them are just way too long, but it was like, hell with it, man. Like, yeah, no, let's do a longer guitar solo on this one. So
who'd you go top 3 guitar players of all time?
That's a good question.
Oh, man, that's an impossible question.
Yeah, it is. I think there's one that screams to my name at least. But.
So the first ones that really got to me, I mean, like Hendrix was probably the alpha for me. I mean, that like when I was 12, it was the 25th anniversary of Woodstock, and so MTV showed the Woodstock documentary. And I still remember I was in my room practicing, and my dad calls me out. He's like, "You got to see this," and and it was Hendrix at Woodstock, and if that's not, it's kind of a generic story at this point, because it's like everyone has the same story. It's like, yeah, we saw Hendrix on the Woodstock movie, and big game changer. But him and Richie Havens also on the same movie. Alvin Lee from 10 Years After. I wouldn't say those are like my top 3 guitar players, but those were definitely the first 3 that had an impact. And then basically, all the shredder dudes from the 80s, like stuff. I never learned to play like those guys, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that I was, super into Bon Jovi and Guns N' Roses and, Warrant and Motley Crue. My first rock concert was Motley Crue. So
okay.
But then but then beyond that, my favorite guitar players, just all of them.
Wow.
All of them.
Was there any? I was fortunate enough to grow up in that era. I'm probably sitting amongst some that have never even heard of the Woodstock documentary. I recall it being on MTV, was huge, in that window. Was there another instrument though that ever threatened the livelihood of the guitar importance?
Oh, that like kind of that made me want to. Well, I tried to pick up bass also in junior high. It's once you become kind of a music nerd and a band geek, it's like no holds barred. It's all of a sudden you just want to learn to play everything all the time. And so that was me in junior high and high school. So yeah, I played classical percussion in high school. I learned mallet percussion. I learned a bit of piano. Like I learned to play the bass enough. And it was all secondary stuff, but I just kind of got a reasonable amount of facility on a handful of different things. I never really tried any wind instruments just because I didn't really have access to them. And I didn't really have much interest in it. Although I've listened to a whole lot of horn players, it wasn't something I ever explored. And then I feel like things like, violin and more of those classical instruments, they just, again, lack of access. And also, have you ever tried to get a sound out of a violin? Like
it's not easy.
Yeah.
Just getting a sound, let alone a good sound.
Yeah. That was my first instrument.
What, the
What you
violin?
don't know, what you guys don't know is that Gina is a world-renowned violinist.
That's nice.
I wish. I think that would be so cool. I have a similar. They came to my elementary school and played a bunch of instruments. They played "My Heart Will Go On the flute, and then I was like, the flute it is.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
All you need.
Yeah.
That's
That was
great.
it's funny that song was this giant hidden guilty pleasure song for me in college. It was like just funny, quick story, just because you mentioned the song. Like I was a monitor at the School of Music at USC. Like that was my work study job. So I would basically sit there on weekends and open up practice rooms for people. I had this big mess of keys and stuff, and we had a boombox that sat there, and I chronically always forgot to bring any music with me. But like there was the Titanic soundtrack was in the CD player, and so I hadn't really paid attention to it because I was, it was the 90s, and I was like, I'm not watching freaking Titanic. No, I don't listen to pop music. I listen to Eddie Harris, John Coltrane, right? So too cool. But of course I put on My Heart Will Go On. I'm sitting there by myself in the School of Music, and of course it just ripped my heart out. And I'm just like, this is the greatest freaking song I've ever heard in my life. And so then when I would go to work, I would just play that freaking song over and over and over again. But if someone would be walking up, like some violist needs a practice room, I'm like, stopping. It's like, no, I wasn't listening to that.
Well, because Celine Dion has wicked pipes.
Oh my God!
Yeah, you can't count her out.
You can never go wrong with Celine Dion.
Yeah.
So Slim, so we got you a little bit growing up, moving forward. What was your first big break into music? Like your first group, group probably wasn't your first big break, right? Obviously the
Nope.
So give us a little bit of the journey, walking through that,
The glow up.
yeah, the blow up to where you are now, which literally is a world-renowned musical artist, guitarist.
So it was a pretty twisty, turny path, I guess, like most people. But yeah, like I said, I went to college, and I got my degree after 5.5 short years. I got a degree in recording arts, and then I just kind of ventured out into Hollywood, and I started a band, and I was just playing with other people, and I was always a guy that played in bands, and so I was in after college, I think a year later, I went to graduate school at UCLA for American history. And while I
Okay.
was in that program, one of the bands that I was playing with, we signed with Atlantic Records. And so
Okay.
that was kind of the first impetus for me. Like I was like a, PhD track student at UCLA to become a history professor. Okay.
Mhm.
And that was because I was playing in bands and stuff, but I was doing freelance wiring work, and it was one of those things where I was kind of like, this is great. I love to play, but like I was just real with myself. Like, this is not going anywhere that's going to pay my bills. So
Mhm.
I'll go to grad school and spend 6 years trying to get a doctorate and then make no money as a professor. That's what made sense to me at the time.
Yeah.
But then the band getting signed, it was this thing, like I went on leave of absence from grad school.
Mhm.
It was kind of like a thing where you can go on leave for up to 2 years. I'm like, okay, well, I guess this is like a sign or whatever. So I need to go and just play music. And one thing led to another, and that record deal just fell to pieces, as record deals are wont to do. So that went away, and then it's like, and I think I was like 23 at that point, and I really, like, you know how it is. You're 23 years old and something doesn't work out, and you just think that like the world literally is over, and that was your last chance. That was
Yeah.
my last
Yeah.
opportunity to do anything with my life.
Mhm.
But somehow I picked up the pieces and started playing in some other bands and did some cool stuff. Nothing earth shattering, but it's kind of it just. Long story short, after playing in all these bands, I got a phone call. A friend of mine had signed this artist named Josh Kelly to Hollywood Records. He had a big hit in 2003 called Amazing. And
Okay.
I knew him. I didn't work with him right then, but it was like the connections, the hands you shake, and the friendships you make, like especially in the music industry, sort of come back.
Yep.
And
Uh-huh.
so while I was just milling about Hollywood playing in bands, I get a call that, like, okay, Josh, my buddy, like he had just, done a bunch of touring stuff, and he was about to make his second record. And so my buddy wanted to put a band together for him, and it was a bunch of buddies of mine. And so we went into the studio with Matt Wallace and made Josh Kelly's record. It was called Almost Honest. And
Okay.
we actually recorded it at Sound City,
Mhm.
which everyone probably saw the documentary of Sound City. And which, the funny thing is, like, when they said that Sound City was a shithole, like, I mean, it was a dump. Like, none of us thought anything of it at the time, because the
Yeah.
place is just, it wasn't a nice place. But so I toured with Josh for a while, met Josh's brother. Josh's brother Charles had just come
Charles,
from
yeah.
Charles Kelly was he had just graduated from the University of Georgia, and he showed up
Holy
he showed
crap.
up in Hollywood one day, all 6'7" of him, and just looking like a giant frat boy. And we got to be friends and started writing songs together. And then it was he had come to Nashville, and I was kind of bouncing back and forth between LA and Nashville. And it was one of those things. It's a super long story, but it ends with me being on the phone with him one day, and him just saying, man, like, why don't you come out to Nashville and like actually hang out for a little while? He's like, we got this band and we have label interest, and we need a guitar player, and we'll live at my brother's house and we'll write songs, and it'll be great. And
And
I
then
was at
And then
and then I
came
and I
comes
threw all my
Lady
crap,
Lady
Antebellum.
A.
Yeah, well, Lady A, yeah.
and it turned out to be Lady Antebellum.
Yeah.
Now Lady A, but it was Lady Antebellum. And so yeah, I throw my stuff in the truck. I drove to Nashville, and it wasn't like some instantaneous thing, but it was just I kind of hit this place in LA. I'd been there for 11 years, and I was just kind of over it in a sense, and
Yeah.
needed kind of a
Mhm.
change of scenery. And I dug Nashville, and Nashville in 2007 was a very, very different place than it is now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you
And,
went one for
yeah.
one, Slim. That's not a gamble, by the way. So
What?
that's pretty spot on.
It's the first. I mean, you got to. This is after 11 years in LA of trying to like get something
Make it.
accomplished. And I get the question all the time from like up and coming musicians, like, how do you end up playing in a big band? I'm kind of like, well, you start playing with a small band and hope that they get successful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
sideman, as a backup musician, like, that's about the way to do it. Because especially in Nashville and country artists, like someone's got to die for a spot to open up. And
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And
yeah.
everyone's so talented, like it's insane.
Oh,
You can't
yeah.
come across somebody who's not great.
Right.
there's 20-year-olds in this town that they can absolutely play circles around me. but they don't have my personality.
Yeah.
And Slim, I'll tell you, at 20, they also don't have your guitar collection.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I have enough gear to get the job done
Right,
at this
yeah.
point.
Right.
The funny thing is that is a thing, and that's where all of this really came from, is like moving here and getting busier and busier and busier, where I'm kind of like, man, I need to have stuff in different places all at the same time. And it was, it's not like that as much anymore, but at the time I was like, I need to have like an in-town full recording rig, and I needed like duplicates of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
And
not
so-
cheap.
It's not cheap.
Yeah.
But I mean, the cool thing was with Lady A, like when they started taking off, it was at a point in history where people still bought records and everything was going great. And I'm very good at talking people into giving me free gear. So
hell yeah.
I did accumulate a pretty solid number of comps from various companies, because all these companies, they want their stuff to be seen on TV. They want it to be seen on the internet and just on stages. And so, we were doing all of that. And so it was a fairly easy sell, not again, everything's kind of leveled off the last few years, but I mean, it was for a while there, like I couldn't, it was almost an addiction for me to try to like talk my way into another guitar.
Yeah.
But that still was the time when like MTV was playing music.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was still like music videos. Like people were watching music videos. I can't tell you the last time I watched a music video.
Yeah.
Unless it's on YouTube.
Yeah,
I was gonna
YouTube.
say that's the source now.
But like I don't even know any new ones that have come out. So like I feel like back when kind of Lady Antebellum started, that was still like
You'd come
you
home
were
from
coming
school,
home and
run
watching,
to the
like,
first thing you do is turn on like
TRL
Yeah, you're
or
MTV.
right.
whatever,
Yeah.
like MTV,
Oh, yeah.
and they were still like showing music videos, and then you were still like watching like award shows and stuff like that. I also feel like that has kind of been on the decline a little bit,
But to Slim's
Yeah.
point, I mean, I found, I didn't realize they were still making videos. I guarantee you can almost find a video for every new song, but to his point, it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
So the world has
Yeah.
flipped,
Not
like
MTV.
where, and I think that's a huge gap in my opinion, because like it's exactly what she said. Like that was our world. You plug into the MTVs and
And there's no
Carson and everybody's
excitement now.
there. Like they were the segue into the new music, versus now it's become so social, and it's that dig and dive, and you're sitting there, hanging out one night and be like, oh my God, somebody made a video of this song and it's your favorite song, and you had no clue that the video existed, versus back in the day.
Oh,
it was
you're
the polar
looking for
opposite.
It was a
We
you
were
were
waiting.
waiting.
That was
right,
the
like,
release.
There was excitement. You were like trying
Yeah, the video
to see
was the
it.
release of
Yeah.
the album.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
crazy.
That
Oh
is
man,
great.
I do remember waiting around for videos. I remember the day that the "Smells Like Teen Spirit" video showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
world lost its collective
Yeah.
mind.
Mhm. That is crazy.
Well, at that
So,
time, you lived,
yeah,
you lived in Colorado, right? At that point?
Well, I lived. I was in Colorado from 8 to 18. So yeah, when I was
Okay.
coming up, like all of my early musical development was Colorado Springs.
And I saw you guys with Lady A couple years ago at Red Rocks. So that was awesome. See that?
Oh,
And I was
cool. Oh,
really-
at the Yellowstone thing.
yes, that's what it was. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
second row. Watch it. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It was cool. It was my first and only time playing at Red Rocks, and it was this really brief in and out thing. But so we did this. It was like this. It was a film festival, but for TV, and so they had this unknown pilot called Yellowstone that they showed the pilot at Red Rocks.
Yeah.
That's
And
We
funny.
then
didn't know
played
going in.
a set.
Okay.
Unknown
And
pilot.
Yeah.
it was like Costner wasn't there, but it was just
Majority
it
of
was,
the
it was a
cast was
really
there.
strange event. Like it was a
Wow.
really weird concept.
Oh,
But I
That
remember
was
watching the
like
pilot to
crowd,
Yellowstone
yeah.
at Red Rocks.
Small world, because
That's
he
funny.
references Yellowstone in one of his songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
that,
yeah,
that was before,
nice.
it was before it came out though, so no one knew what it was.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
the crowd was like, "What is this? And why are we watching a movie and not watching the band right now?"
Yeah.
Everyone was not happy, but then once you guys came out, of course it was awesome. So
Of course,
Okay.
yeah. Obviously.
we're all
That's
waiting
sick.
around, but we watched an episode of Yellowstone instead of having an opening.
Such a
band.
cool
Yeah,
venue.
yeah.
Yeah,
Kev,
because
you-
it was like 2 hours long.
So obviously we got the Big D sauce, and I showed you it's got my face on the actual sauce. So if
Mhm.
you could put any brand right now that you would have the Slim Gamble face, and maybe you're working on something, so I don't want to break anything. But like if you could get into any industry outside of maybe music, what would you do?
Like if you had a product and you were gonna brand it with the Slim Gamble face.
Wow.
I got one for you right after you announce
I
your
don't have
thoughts.
anything that springs to mind. So what's yours?
So just instantly my brain goes, okay, he has a massive guitar collection.
Mm-hmm.
So that you could easily do the guitar case or the guitar bag with your braids down the side of that bag.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
just
that's
saying.
not a bad
if it's,
idea.
You're welcome, man. You may not know where
Sounds
I
like
am in
Shark
50
Tank
years,
waiting
but
to happen.
I could see a hella good bourbon.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Do like a nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like
Yeah.
I stopped drinking liquor years ago. I mean, in my 20s I drank all the liquor. So I mean,
Yeah.
I did my time, but at this point, like if right now in my life, if it wasn't for IPAs, I probably wouldn't drink.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's what I freaking love IPAs, but outside of that, like I'm not a beer snob. I'm not any like I just specifically am into IPAs.
All
So
types.
me being involved with a bourbon company would be like
Yeah, right.
it'd be ironic to say the least, because I'd be kind of like, I have no real interest in my own product.
Right. Yeah.
So we got to get him an IPA.
We got to get him an IPA. You into all IPAs, hazies? What's your
No, you know what's
Ammo.
funny is like this is something that comes up in restaurants all the time. It's like, no, I specifically wanted to say IPA. I don't want an imperial IPA or
Yeah.
a double IPA or a hazy IPA, or I guess I like West Coast IPAs if there
Right.
was an adjective I wanted to assign to it. But no, all of the I don't want grapefruit pineapple IPA.
Gotcha?
I don't want tropical IPA.
Yeah.
Not just straight up like hoppy, just
Just like
goodness.
give me a
Yeah.
Kinda like
manly
extreme
beer.
flavors, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a very extreme flavor. So
Yeah.
I kind of
that's
like
cool.
things to be too salty or too sweet or too garlicky or too bitter.
Mhm.
Nice.
So yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I cook a lot of different kinds of food, but I've never thought about what would I brand something with. I don't know. I'll have to give it some thought. Let me get back to you.
Nice.
How are you? Good cook, Slim?
I mean I'm a decent cook. Like, yeah, I'm a solid cook. I don't exactly like know what I'm doing, but I like to make food taste good.
Yeah.
So, I'm fairly good at seasoning it and cooking it, and I'm kind of good at just coming up with stuff off the top of my head. That
Yeah.
would be if I had a superpower, it would be the ability to open my refrigerator in my pantry and come up with something to make.
Mhm.
Hell
Nice.
yeah.
I'll tell you, this table has a bunch of good cooks. Like Gina comes over and she'll cook like healthy meals for us.
For the year.
I know that was like, you don't think it's gone in like 2 days. And then
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, she
I wasn't-
comes,
I wasn't
makes
gonna
like
even let
this
you-
much.
I
Like-
saved you from a lie right then, because you'd be like, oh, for the month. No, the year.
Yeah, for the year. No, because she'll come like 3 or 4 times.
Right.
So like throughout the year,
Yeah.
you should go over to Will's if you ever want a steak.
Or
'cause he'll-
brisket. Or brisket.
or brisket.
Your
or
brisket
any of
guy,
that.
Will?
Yeah.
He kills
Okay.
it. Slays.
Okay.
Slays.
This is good to know.
I mean, I can make an unhealthy meal that's delicious too, but your wife is always like, "Well, you make him something that'll eat that's healthy."
Yeah, and it's delicious.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Love it. Slim Pickens IPA.
Slim Pickings
It's
IPA.
worth the gamble.
It's worth the
It's
game.
worth
There
the
you go.
gamble. That's
So
awesome.
Tom flashed this thing on our screen. What did it say again, Tom? Slim Pickens IPA. It's worth the gamble. That's
There you
Hey,
go.
there you go.
that's
You're
uh,
Now all we
set
got to
up,
do is like actually make the beer.
Yeah.
Right.
mhm.
Yeah. We got to find a brewery in.
Hey, that'll
Make
be
it
that'll be
happen.
just as easy as you getting merch for free to wear on
I was
stage. I
gonna say,
promise
it
you.
is not
Somebody
easy.
would like knock your door down trying to make it for you.
Oh man, it is not hard to find people that brew beer.
Right.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
really
true
look.
story.
I mean, 2 doors down, a buddy makes like actually fantastic beer.
all right. One last thing I want to run by it, and then we'll wrap the show up relatively soon. But so your top 3 moments on stage, and I like to do this. Like we had Afro Man on, and for Afro
Right.
Man, it was actually Afro Man fell down on stage, right? And the whole crowd just starts
In there.
going nuts
But thought it was
because
part of the act.
because they thought it was part of the act, because you know how he finished it? He fell down on stage, busted his tail, worse than ever. And then he goes, because I got high. And then everyone just went nuts. So like,
That's amazing.
give me some of your like top 3 stage moments. Could be greatest performance ever.
Or embarrassing.
Or
ones.
embarrassing that you carried on that is memorable.
Or
I would say
traumatizing.
Or traumatizing.
memorable and traumatizing tend to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's really easy to remember the times because it's like, I mean, I've played thousands of shows, so it's sort of like, they're all like, cool. So it's like the ones that are magical. I guess there's some of those, but the more interesting stories are definitely when stuff went wrong.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah, let's
that's
hear about one of those.
So it's really funny because Lady A we played the Grammys twice.
Okay.
And both times something went catastrophically wrong.
On the Grammys.
Right.
So I guess the first time, like we played "Need You Now" on the Grammys. So what had happened was there's this giant scrim. Okay, it's this big, like, kind of translucent curtain, like big, like from the top of Staples Center all the way to the stage. Okay, and it was dividing. It was right behind the 3. We call the 3 of them the ladies. Okay, so it's right behind the 3 ladies, and it divides them from the band. So we're kind of at the beginning. We're silhouetted behind the scrim, okay, with lighting and smoke and all this stuff. And then as we hit the first chorus, the scrim drops and it gets very rapidly dragged off the stage. And it goes away, and then the band is revealed, and we're rocking, and it's cool. Okay, it's a good effect. We do it during rehearsal, which there are many, many, many times you run through this stuff for the Grammys. Okay,
For sure.
Yeah.
So everything's good. It didn't occur to anyone that there would be more air conditioning blowing in the Staples Center when it's full of 20,000 people. Okay, so air conditioning running creates air pressure. It creates currents. And it takes a scrim, which is a really thin piece of fabric, and it pushes it back. Okay. So the curtain drops on Hillary.
Oh,
and
no.
Dragged off the stage.
Oh, no.
And it grabs 2 of the lights that are on the stage with it and hurls them off the stage. And it also grabbed one of the big lighting trusses above us.
Oh my God.
So for the rest of the song, Hillary managed to like get away from being almost dragged off the stage and didn't even bat an eye. Got through the song, but there's this giant lighting truss above us doing this.
Yeah, that's
the entire time. And these things, they're made to put up with a whole lot of abuse. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna fall, but when you're directly underneath it. Like, so if you watch the video from the Grammys that year, you can see there's shots of like, there's Hillary and I'm right behind Hillary and you can see me looking up. and it looks like I'm just like
all in. Yeah. It's like I'm all in.
Blue light coming down. It's like so cool. It's like, no, I'm freaking watching this thing. Make sure down on me. So that was Grammy experience number 1. The next year we came back, and that's the year that Lady A swept the Grammys. But we did an acoustic performance. We did it was like a tribute to Teddy Pendergrass, and then we went into one of their songs. But it was just the 3 of them, myself, and a piano player. So we get up on stage, same thing. We'd run through everything. Everything's solid, right? I'm sitting on a stool, like right behind them on my guitar. And I'm sitting there right before we go on during the live broadcast. They're at commercial. And so I'm sitting there like tuning up. Okay. And I break a string.
Oh,
shit.
Okay?
Oh,
This is like, we have about 2 minutes, but I'm just like, oh, son of a right. And there's like just some random stagehand there. I just look over and I said, I broke a string. I broke a freaking string. And he says, what kind of guitar do you need? I'm like, an acoustic guitar, anything. So he grabs my guitar from me and goes running backstage.
Oh gosh.
Okay. And so I'm sitting there and the clock's ticking and it's 60 seconds and it's 30 seconds. And I'm sitting there on a stool. Like if I still had my guitar, if I had a guitar on my lap, I could mute it and pretend to play.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm just random dude sitting on a stool without an instrument. Okay. And so finally, with like 20 seconds, this dude comes running up to him and he's got a Takamine. He found like the Takamine guitar guy backstage somewhere.
Okay.
Grabs the guitar and like he brings it to me. I'm like, thanks. And I get it in tune and I have like 10 seconds. They're giving us the countdown. And I'm just like,
yeah, that's crazy.
because my heart's racing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then we did it. We got it done.
Oh
But,
my
That's crazy.
God.
yeah, can you imagine if I had just been sitting there?
Just randomly.
If you were
I'm not-
just
sitting
sitting
Wow.
there.
along.
Couldn't go sprinting off the stage.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to do.
That
Like I
would've
was
just
like, we're gonna go into the wave. We're like
Because there wa-
everybody get
Because
started.
like timing for like those
Snapping
type
on.
of performances, like I feel like the Grammys and those events like are so timed. Like that's why a
Yeah.
lot of times we even cut people's speeches
Well,
off.
but that and you got to think because what I was about to say is think about the pressure because the one question I was going to ask
Yeah.
after this is that has got to be the most pressure packed performance ever. I
For
mean, you're
sure.
already walking
Yeah.
into it
Yeah.
knowing the entire world tunes in. It's
Yeah.
Super Bowl of music. I mean, you know, so you're sitting there already amped to no end.
Mhm.
And then
There's
some
only so
random
many
kid grabs
pews,
your guitar.
and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose, and you got lights
Yeah.
swinging above you with no guitar in your hand, and you got to start air puppeting to the
Mhm.
to make yourself
Yeah.
not look completely stupid in front of
air
millions and millions
guitar.
of people. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
right.
Sit there an air guitar.
That's awesome
Yeah.
though.
So,
What-
but you know, it all worked out.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome.
And one more thing I was going to bring up that you know a lot of folks don't really know, but I wanted to bring up because it's super important to me is our kids go to the same elementary school, and
Mhm.
you founded sort of the watchdog group of volunteers that goes to the elementary school throughout the day just to provide extra security.
Oh, that's cool.
So I mean, I was
That is all.
That's awesome.
yeah, when Slim put out the memo, you know, looking for volunteers, I jumped in right away. I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a cool thing. What a great cause. And so I mean, you know, a champion on the stage and off the stage,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
awesome.
making
man.
awesome things happen.
Thanks for your.
So I
You're
wanna-
one of the loyal ones, man. You keep showing up.
hey, listen, man.
Yeah, I'll call me like, Thrill, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just doing the Bobcat buddies. I'm like,
Oh, baby.
doing my security detail.
Nah, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's something I think every school in this country, you know, unfortunately at this point could benefit from, you
Yeah.
know. So that's one of those things that, you know, there's always a small segment of the show where we bring it back to the reality of the world. And,
Mhm.
you know, that's one of those things, you know, as parents, it's your greatest fear of something happening, you know, to your child, no
yeah.
matter whether it's a car accident or at school or, you know, and that's just things we never had to think about as kids. The worst case scenarios where you're getting bullied and you end up in a fight in the bathroom and then you're having lunch with the same dude because you're best friends again.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
before school day is over. Now, you know, it's every corner you got to turn and hold your breath and hope that, you know, everybody shows back up home like they're supposed to. So that's,
Gosh,
I mean, testament to, you know, who you are as a person. So that's awesome, man.
well, I'm a paranoid, anxiety fueled person at the end of the day. Like that's what
Yep.
it really like stems from that. I mean, you know, we all know what's been happening in the world, and it's like
Yeah.
the unfortunate truth of that is like I think organizing a volunteer thing has been one of the most frustrating things in my entire life. Just
For sure.
getting people. Like I said, Will like shows up like the same times every week.
Yep.
It's like clockwork.
Tuesdays,
and there's a
Thursdays,
handful-
10:30.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. And there's a handful of others that keep showing up, but it's like at the beginning of this year, it's the unfortunate truth is that after Uvalde, Texas happened, like I started this and a bunch
Yeah.
of people signed up, and by the end of the year, I was the only one still showing up.
Yeah.
And then I started it up again for this school year, and you know, then we had the Covenant shooting right here in Nashville.
Right.
And
Yeah.
out of the woodwork, of course, everyone is beat
Everybody's
up.
back on. Yeah.
And for a while, I was like, man, this is great. We had like 33 people that, you know, most of whom were showing up. And so it was like, there were days where it was like, okay, the walkie-talkie's running out of battery because there's always somebody there. Always.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And again, it just, people have really, really short memories. And so it just kind of,
Yeah.
it's pulled back. Like there are still like, it's way better than last year because there's a solid, probably 8 or 10 people that still consistently come out. But it's frustrating, like chasing down grown adults to come do something that they committed to. That's like, it's an hour a week and it's something that we all deemed worthy, but it's tough because it's like, it's a volunteer thing. So like, how
Right.
much of a dick can I be to chase
Yeah.
people down to come
Yeah.
and do it? In my mind, it's like, I shouldn't really have to do that. It's like, do we do we believe that making sure that doors are locked is a big enough deal? It's like, well, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd
Yeah.
be surprised. It's hard to chase down adults to do something that they're being paid to do.
Paid to do.
Yeah,
As
right,
a
yeah.
job. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Let
So-
That's
alone
a valid, that is a valid point,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I mean,
But I
Yeah.
mean, with as with your music, though, I mean, I personally, challenge you and encourage you to keep at it. Like
Thanks.
it's that I think you're in that 11-year window of at some point it breaks, and
Right.
somebody, and we all pray that, it doesn't break because another tragic event, occurs, that it has to break, and we have 30 minutes worth of, oh, we're going to make this world a better place, and then at minute 31, we're back to normal, and
I mean,
screw you and your
remar-
family and your kids, and let's hope for the best. So stay
It's
at it, man.
remarkable how quickly everyone forgets that. And like it's
Yeah.
one of those things where like for our organization, there are definitely those times when just no one's responding and people just are kind of just being flakes. And I'm just kind of like, do I need to send you like some video? You need to see the body cam footage from Covenant.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Like little reminder here, like this shit actually happened.
Yeah. In our city.
Happens
Like,
frequently. And it's like,
Yeah.
and
it
it's-
actually happened
I mean,
today. I want to say today or yesterday. at
yeah, I think it was
UNLV.
yesterday, UNLV.
UNLV.
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
jeez.
a professor who, a professor who was trying to get a job there and didn't get the job.
Yeah.
and
Denied
then
application.
Denied an application. Yeah, and then shot up UNLV.
Oh my goodness.
No joke.
How did I not
I
hear
just
this?
I just saw it this
Yeah,
morning.
I think it happened
so
yesterday.
I wasn't
but
sure,
yeah.
if it was yesterday or today,
Yeah.
but I just saw it this
Wow.
morning. Yeah, really
That's
sad.
crazy. That doesn't even make the news anymore, right? It's
Yeah.
just
Well, because unfortunately, it's becoming part of our norm, and it's a norm, and I'm not that big of a fan of.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
actually.
Yeah.
terrifying.
for sure.
Yeah.
Freaking terrifying.
And a norm that doesn't happen in other countries.
It
so
does not.
That's crazy to me too.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It's I mean, and that's that conversation is such a rabbit hole, and it's like, and it has no obvious answer. It's like it's like there are answers that seem clear and obvious, but it's just it goes so deep. It goes so deep here.
Super.
that,
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start, which is why I'm like, you know what, all that I can do is
Make a
show up
difference.
and look around and hope that I can encourage others to do the same.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
No.
Meanwhile, because it's like there are policies in place, people talk about mental health. It's like, okay, these are definitely long-term goals.
Yeah.
For
Mhm.
sure.
What can I do about the dudes that's already crazy as hell, that's ready to
Yeah.
go do this to another school?
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That dude's already out
And
there.
they're-
All the mental
they're
health services
everywhere.
in the world are not going to get to him right now.
Immediately,
Right.
Uh-huh.
yeah. When I was a kid, if my parent came to school for whatever reason to like read to the class or whatever, like I loved that.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. They get
Yo,
to kick out.
that's my dad.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
the best guitar player I know.
Well, and that's the other crazy part. Like, I mean, like this man ain't I got a regular job.
Yeah.
This man just talked about playing the Grammys.
Yeah.
You know what I don't do when I'm in the office? Look up to see if the lights are gonna fall on me while I'm typing an email. It don't happen. That's not something I have to worry about. I mean, there are no curtains being removed before I get to my desk. So,
You know, we all got our crosses to bear, man. You know?
Yeah.
yeah, my biggest question of the day is: do I leave my desk sitting or do I stand up today? And I mean, that's not.
If you had to give advice to the next Slim, what would you give them?
Oh boy, get a degree in something computer related so you have a fallback plan. I'm half kidding. It's really funny because we're coming into a season like next year. Lady A is doing very little. Like they're not going away or disappearing or anything. But I mean, it's a really mellow year. Like they'll probably put out another record at some point next year, but it's a planned year of not a whole lot. So I'm kind of getting into a whole lot of other stuff, and I'm super excited about all the stuff that I'm getting into. But there's definitely the part of me that's kind of like, man, I wish there was some obvious thing that I had, like, a business degree or some sort of a financial planning certificate, like something
Well,
where
now
I
you
could
have
go,
the IPA.
obviously go and do something with it.
We've provided you
yeah.
that. Yeah,
It's
just
good. It's
today,
good.
that
It's good.
IPA.
The IPA and the guitar bags, brother.
Yeah, there we go.
We could
There's
do
my
it.
retirement
The
plan.
time
You're
is
set.
now.
We could
Yeah.
do like a crossover. We should do a crossover record, like hip hop and well,
I was saying, you know, your guitar licks, I'll build a beat around it, and we'll get another big artist on it. And
well, that's
put
where
out.
it's and that's what, like, we haven't even talked about it, but like that's what I've been doing pretty well, like, you know, wait for it, on smooth jazz radio. And
Hell
so
yeah.
like my
Ooh.
single this past week just jumped from 47 to 18, and it's like trucking.
Come
So
on.
Nice.
Oh,
it's a
heck
weird
yeah.
little niche, very, very niche market. And but it's like, but that's what you're describing. It's like having like a cool, you know, a hip hop beat with, like, you know, clean jazzy guitars over it. It's
Jazz,
like that's
yeah.
kind of what that
Exactly.
format has become.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And some of it's really cool and some of it's really not. But it's but yeah, that's been an interesting little thing that I've been working on for a while. And it's just as Lady A is taking a year of downtime, like all of a sudden stuff is really doing well in that regard. So, you know, so it's cool. So I feel like stuff does fall into place the way it's supposed to, much like when I was in grad school and my band got signed. Like, that obviously didn't go anywhere, but it did in fact guide me towards, like, maybe I should be playing music. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
there's, when you asked me what advice I would give to somebody, and I was about to say, like, oh, make a backup plan. But then on another level, it's kind of like, if you have a backup plan, there's a good chance you're going to use the backup plan.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, you know, my backup plan is also music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done some other things in the past, and if push came to shove, I could harness some of those skill sets. But at the end of the day, I guess the gosh, what advice would I give somebody? Because there's days I think it's I think trusting one's gut is a good, even beyond being musicians, it's a good piece of advice, because of the fact that if you're a musician and you can fathom the thought of getting up tomorrow and not making music, you're probably not as deep in it as you think you are. But if
Yep.
you're the person that, like, you really like, no, you have to do this, well, find a way to do it, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of ways to do it.
Yeah.
There really, really are. But it's kind of like everyone sort of has to figure it out for themselves. Like, okay, do I need this? Do I need the frustration? Because it's like the music industry sucks. I mean, it is
Yeah.
it is a pain in
So-
the ass. And I like, if people ask me if my kids are going to get into music, and I'm kind of like, they love listening to music. They haven't explored wanting to play an instrument. If they ask, I will of course encourage it. But it's not for the faint of heart. And
Yep.
like, if my kids are interested in the music business, cool, I'll support whatever they're passionate about, but I'm not going to push them towards it, because
Yeah.
it's an incredibly difficult path. Why does one go down an incredibly difficult path? Because one has to, you know,
That's right.
because there's no other option for that person.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that tends to be me, like, whatever form it takes, whether I'm, you know, writing smooth jazz, or I'm playing in a country band, or I'm teaching. Like, I teach a lot of kids how to play guitar, which is thoroughly enjoyable for me. No kids have it. I mean, anybody that I can, like, show how to play, like, I really like that. But
I'll
whatever
be over at
it
4.
takes, like, that's
Yeah.
I said I'll be over at 4.
you don't even have to bring a guitar. It's,
Right. I've already picked the one I want to start on. So.
Love it. But yeah, I guess it's one of those things of, like, figuring out one's own passion and just, like, continuing to chase it, and accept the fact that it's not going to be the same thing that you had in mind when you were 12. You know,
Yeah.
most people don't get to achieve their full-on rock and roll fantasy. But there are other ways to do it. And, like, what I've kind of realized, because my dream was obviously to play in a rock band and to, you know, and to do the rock and roll thing. And I've come to realize, like, from being on tour a lot, like, I don't have, like, a rock star personality. Like, I'm not the dude that's doing all the drugs and all the things we think about when we think about Keith Richards and all these cats.
Yeah.
Like, that really isn't me. And I don't like being away from home all the time. I can't fathom, like, jumping on a tour bus and kissing my kids goodbye for 6 months. So, like, all the things that true road dogs and true rock stars, like, love, like, I really, it's not. Not only do I not love them, like I can't fathom the thought of doing that stuff. So all that to say, me somehow ending up playing in a country band where it's weekend warrior stuff. We leave town for a few days every so often and then come back home and take our kids to school. Okay, I landed where I was supposed to land. So it's sort of like seeing the signs, following the path that's like laid out for us, as opposed to the one that we think we're supposed to be on. Because we all think like, oh, this is what I want to do. This is what I have to do. Okay, your passion is amazing, but like read the room, see which way the wind blows, and like don't be afraid to like do something that you're kind of like, that's a weird idea. Like again, me, like I don't listen to country music, like I don't care about country. Like this, it's thoroughly weird that this is what I've done for 17 years.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But
When you jump outside the box, that's usually when things happen.
So there you go.
If you're in the same box, you'll never make it. You gotta explore. You're a good man, Slim. You really are a good man.
I appreciate it,
joke.
guys.
Like
thanks for
and
hanging.
all of us, and we'll eventually get Gina some kids or whatever. But all of us are parents and stuff like that. So like I think you really struck a chord with that
guy.
But
he's the guy.
But you're a good man, Slim. Yeah, honestly, keep on doing what you're doing, brother. And this was a blast having you on.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, likewise, it's a really good time. Thanks, guys.
To have a Nashville-based artist on Nashtyville,
we love
is
it,
a big
You
step.
are the first. And we'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh man, thank y'all so much. This is a great time. This is a blast.
Absolutely,
Appreciate you.
man. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Welcome to Nashtyville. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Peace.
Ride around my top down, window shaking a lot now. I'ma stay proud, no Kane Brown, but I thank God for these days now. Don't make sounds, crash glass, no rebounds. End town, Nashtyville, and I stay proud now.